Just a quick pre-warning that this podcast may contain themes of an adult nature with themes such as drugs, suicide, and mental health.
Hi, I'm Laura.
And I'm Paul.
And this is
The Truth About.
Confusion filled sea of doubt. It's time to hear the truth about. Confusion filled sea of doubt. It's time to hear the truth about
Marilyn Monroe.
Hello and welcome to The Truth About, where we discuss a range of topics from our honest perspective. Today we have decided to talk about Marilyn Monroe.
Sounds good, Laura. This is a bit of your specialist subject, isn't it?
Yes, you really are the one that encouraged this fascination with probably one of the most famous women in the world. Do you remember how it all came about?
Well, yeah, I do actually. As far as I can remember from my side of things, there was this documentary on Channel 4. And
Yes.
I think I only saw the trailer and I was like, well, that's interesting because
Yeah.
that's kind of different from what I thought Marilyn Monroe was, because I obviously didn't have a clue apart from maybe an Andy Warhol picture or something.
Yeah.
I didn't know she was an actress or anything like that. And then I think I watched that without you.
No, you didn't. No, I remember watching it with you.
That was it.
Because I took pretty much a lot of my knowledge
Yeah.
from that documentary thinking, well, it was on TV, it must be true.
Yeah.
And it was only after I said, you know what, it'd be really cool to actually watch some of her films and read a bit more about her,
Yeah.
that you bought me that DVD box set. Do you remember?
Yeah. It obviously had the most iconic films in it, didn't it?
Yes. So did we start A to Z, or did we... How did we do it? Because I remember actually watching Some Like It Hot without you.
Yeah.
I watched it with a friend.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that was it.
And I was like, yeah, you've got to watch this.
You need to watch this one especially.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from that point on, it pretty much built up from there, didn't it?
That's the thing. I'm pretty sure like the first Marilyn films that we watched were like not the most iconic kind of
No,
thing. Like
because-
Don't Bother to Knock or like something like that.
Yeah, I think we started with All About Eve and we started
was
making
it.
our way
Yeah.
through, and it was amazing seeing the types of roles that she had in the early days and to the peak of her fame. But obviously, as I mentioned, Marilyn is probably one of the most famous women in the world, and yet general people don't really know that much about her.
I think that is the fascination, isn't it?
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's more of the negatives that people know, isn't it?
Yeah. And mainly just image and quotes that teenage girls share on the internet with little or no source.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to that a little bit later.
Oh, well, I'm just letting you plan this one. So
This is my podcast. I'm just letting Paul get involved. So my obsession really... I say obsession, it did become an obsession, was after I had a foot operation on both my feet.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what, I've got nothing better to do. Let's start up a Tumblr. Remember Tumblr days?
Those were the days.
Those
for
were the days.
You, maybe. But
Well, yeah. The amount of times you rolled your eyes at me, I'm like, I've got 400 notes. This person stole my picture. But I spent a lot of my time in bed reading up about Marilyn, and through Tumblr I actually learned a lot.
But that was the positive thing, because that was like the thing that I clearly remember. Like, that was your party trick. They used to say to people, like, you could show Laura any picture of Marilyn Monroe and she will tell you the photographer and the year.
Yeah.
That was like the thing, wasn't it?
Maybe not so much now. But I can't really remember now. But yeah, this is about 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago. And through that, I was actually able to make friends with a lot of people in what I call the Marilyn community.
Yeah.
And I made friends with people on Tumblr, and then I got invited to a fan group on Facebook,
Yeah.
which created so many friendships. And
That was such a huge... that was such a huge positive, wasn't it, really?
that was the biggest thing. And we ended up, because there were so many places in America that Paul and I wanted to go to, and just so happens either Marilyn lived there or had been there, we were able to actually physically meet some of those friends. And when you meet them, you think all we're going to talk about is Marilyn. And the realism is you don't. You talk about everything.
Yeah, that for me was because I mean, obviously you were heavily into Marilyn kind of thing, and it kind of, I would say, maybe got a little bit more obsessive than obviously I'd put into it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of got a bit harder because then I didn't really know as much anymore.
No.
So then I just didn't really bother as much, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I
but
think
appreciate
the obsession really came from not really having. It was the first interest I'd ever really had.
Yeah.
And because there was so much that to learn.
Yeah.
It just grew and grew and grew.
Totally.
After a couple of years, obviously, it died down and I grew up a bit. Bear in mind, I was only about 19, 20 years old. So, but there's plenty of people that are still, they could be in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and that are still in love with Marilyn and obsessed. And it's not a bad thing at all.
No, it's amazing.
It is. And people are still finding out so much about her.
Because that's the thing. Obviously, when I explain it to people go, "That's a bit random," or like that's a bit strange. And I think, well, no, because they're like historians. That's how I explain it. They are Marilyn historians. Like, you think about the various people in the community. Like, to actually find where she actually stood at a certain point, that fascinates me. Because it's remarkable.
And being able to say the history that went along with certain buildings,
totally.
And certain places, it is really amazing. And we've got friends in Los Angeles, Canada, Amsterdam, in the UK as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that we talk to on Facebook. New York. And it is really so nice to be able to go back to those places as well. We visited most of the Marilyn spots, which, her houses, which are still standing, where she's buried. That was a magical moment as well.
Totally.
And also, we went to a Marilyn Monroe birthday party.
Totally, that was
one of my favourite days.
Yeah, and I know why.
In 2017, Paul and I went to LA for 2 weeks, and we were invited to a Marilyn Monroe birthday party.
Now, was that the first time you went to LA, or was
No, that was the second.
Oh yeah, second time. Okay.
So we already had like a small network of friends.
Yeah, that was good.
And we went to a guy called Greg's house, Greg Schreiner, I think that's how it's pronounced.
Oh, yes.
We went to his house. He opens it up to have these Marilyn gatherings, and he displays some of his Marilyn Monroe collection.
And his dogs.
And his dogs are so beautiful. I love them. And you're able to meet other like-minded Marilyn fans, and sometimes he invites guests of people that actually knew Marilyn. We sang happy birthday, we drank champagne, we ate, and it was just
Good
so
times.
fun.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best days so far, wasn't it?
And then when everybody left, our friend Jackie, who is part of the Marilyn Remembered fan club,
oh yes,
her and Scott also is part of that, and he also runs the Marilyn Monroe collection, because he's got a large collection himself, took Paul and I into Greg's costume room, where he has a large collection of hats, clothes, costumes, props, all of these amazing items. And then they pulled out the Marilyn Monroe dresses and coats, and I was like, oh my goodness.
To see Laura's face, I'm pretty sure that's the happiest I genuinely have ever seen you. As much as we pretend that there are other times which could actually, rival that, we all know it's lies. That was actually...
The moment Scott put Marilyn's dress over my head, I would never have been able to fit into it. Because contrary to popular belief, she was not plus size by any means.
We're already killing those myths already.
I know, killing the myths, but I had that over my head and I was like, wow, this is a big moment. Not many people can do this. No. And it was such a lovely day, and we met so many lovely people.
Definitely.
But going on to, the truth about Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
So I've told you a little bit about how I became part of the fandom.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of forgetting that you ran this blog, and it was one of the biggest blogs in the UK. Or,
yes.
That was quite remarkable because that was the thing, wasn't it? The popularity thing. And...
Yeah, on Tumblr, I had a Marilyn Monroe website or blog where I pretty much just posted pictures and facts of Marilyn, and it grew massively.
That's my new word.
I actually got offered to go on ITV to show my minuscule collection. However,
well, in comparison,
because of image rights, it didn't happen.
No, they couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford it. So that didn't happen. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have much of the collection now. I've got very few special items to me. But yeah, so through Marilyn, I've been able to gain a lot of knowledge and make a lot of new friends, including authors, Michelle Morgan,
exactly,
who I actually have on Facebook, and she is so lovely.
Yeah.
We met her in person when she gave a talk at the Victoria and Albert Museum.
That was good.
And it made me cry. She did a talk about Marilyn and her book. She's got loads of books out about Marilyn now, as well as some other people. So
well worth checking out.
Yeah, we'll put a link for her books.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've really grown at our friendship, our travels, and our knowledge, all because of Marilyn Monroe, and how we see other celebrities now as well. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's not just about Marilyn, is it? That's really the thing, isn't it? It's bigger than Marilyn, but it all starts with Marilyn, doesn't it? You know? So, but yeah, it is a fascinating subject, and still love it. Still love watching Marilyn, obviously.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, it is.
Well, hopefully our daughter will enjoy Marilyn Monroe as well.
She won't have a choice.
Well, I put on Gentlemen Prefer Blondes once, she just stood there like
by the colours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the colours, the music, it's all good fun. Okay, so now I think we should focus on the truth and the lies that surround Marilyn Monroe's life.
Okay, interesting.
I'm going to do a little quiz with you. Some truth or false.
That's what. So you're going to be asking me.
So, truth or false? Did Marilyn Monroe have an IQ of 168?
No. The problem is with this is I don't even know what a generic IQ level is.
No, neither do I, but I'm guessing it's kind of high.
Yeah, I'm thinking that is high. And I'm thinking like Bill Gates obviously has something really high, and I heard 100, so what were we saying, 168 was that?
Yeah.
That seems a bit high. I'm going to say, I don't know though, because I'm thinking she obviously was intelligent, she's very well read, so maybe I would say true.
It's false.
Oh, okay.
The reason why it's false is because there's no record of her actually having her IQ test done.
Okay.
So a lot of people throw that around to try and get rid of the dumb blonde myth. But as we'll see later, that there's actually other means of knowing that without having to create a false IQ.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, so she owned over 400 books.
Now, I know that she did have a lot of books, and I know that wasn't it like the Abraham Lincoln book, which was like
she had a lot of.
Yeah, I would say 400 for me seems like a lot though. So, but then again, I know she liked reading. I'm gonna go with true.
No, it's false.
Oh man.
No, that's a lie. It is true.
Oh, okay. That's good.
No, I wanted you to fail that one. No, yes. So she had an extensive library of books, which included literature, art, drama, biography, poetry, politics, history, theology, philosophy, and psychology. So thank you to Scott Faulkner's website for citing that.
Highly recommend that.
Yeah.
What's the website you're gonna give it a plug?
Marilyn Monroe collection.
Yeah, totally.
We'll link that.
Yeah. We'll link everyone.
We'll link everybody
that you need to check out. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a taboo subject.
Okay, I'm up for taboo.
She slept with various studio heads to get further in her career.
Studio heads. And I guess this is relative, really, isn't it? Of your perception of that. I'm going to be nice and say false.
It is false.
Okay, good.
Marilyn actually mentions this in her book, My Story, which was ghostwritten. But it's basically just her talking about her life and how her career came to be. And I think it was written up until the point of before she married Joe DiMaggio. So it's not her full life, but it gives a good insight to her childhood and her starlet days.
Yeah.
But in the book, she does say that she rejected a lot of people. She called them wolves.
Yeah.
Which included a studio head named Harry Cohn. I think that's how it's pronounced. She basically was invited to join him for a weekend alone on his yacht. She turned him down, and he dropped her from the studio almost instantly.
Wow.
However, she did have a relationship with her agent, Johnny Hyde.
That's the thing that I was kind of remembering.
So
and I was like,
she did have a relationship with Johnny Hyde. I'm not sure if they actually slept together.
Because Elisa took us to his house.
Yes,
wasn't it?
she did.
That was
yes.
it. Yeah.
So our
I
friend
remember.
Elisa, who runs a selection of tours in LA Woman Tours, took us to all of the houses that Marilyn lived in that are still standing.
Yeah.
So yes, she took us there.
I remember that bit.
And Marilyn was very close to Johnny Hyde. She cared for him a great deal, but she was not interested in marrying him when he asked countless times.
Yeah.
He even said, if you marry me, you'll inherit everything. And she said no. She just wanted him as a companion and him to be her agent and get her roles, and she got her role in All About Eve and Asheville Jungle because of Johnny. So that sort of lit the flame for her career, but it wasn't until 1952 she got a starring role. So
okay, well that was interesting.
So whatever you think you can believe about the casting couch system, it doesn't apply to everybody.
No.
Okay, so this is a good one. Marilyn had a secret wedding in 1952.
Okay. A secret wedding in 1952. False.
Well done. So, if you haven't heard of Robert Slatzer, then you've probably not been reading enough conspiracy theories.
You're not reading enough of the right stuff.
No, well, let's avoid the conspiracy theories and try and avoid Robert Slatzer.
Yeah.
He's pretty much where trouble started with conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But he met Marilyn on the set of Niagara in 1952. I believe he had a press pass and he was able to get on set. So he had some photos taken with Marilyn. And he actually made a claim that they were married in Mexico on the 4th of October in 1952. However, so they would have travelled down on October 3rd, I believe, and got married on the 4th. However, this can be proven to be untrue because there's actually photos of Marilyn not in Mexico and not with him. He actually claimed that they had it quickly annulled, but because the studio wasn't happy with it.
Didn't he make the claims after she died as well?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So it's totally...
And the reason was because he was trying to get an article published and they said, now if you were married to Marilyn Monroe, that would be a story. And then he came back and said, actually...
Yeah.
Did you know I was? And
we had a secret wedding. There's no evidence of it. It's so secret no one knew about it, not even Marilyn.
Exactly. And I believe there's actually a check written on the date that he claims he was in Mexico with her, but she was shopping and the check was made out to the shop with the date on. So records, people, sources. That's what we use. Facts, yes. Okay, another slightly taboo subject. She was addicted to drugs.
Yeah, so, I mean, I obviously already know this anyway. She wasn't addicted to drugs as such.
Not recreational drugs.
No.
So it wasn't as if she smoked a lot of weed. It's possible that she did smoke weed, but hey, 50s and 60s.
I
But
think everybody potentially may have had it in their system just from a contact high.
yeah. But the reality is she was actually addicted to her prescription drugs.
Yeah.
She had 2 doctors, and I believe they should be held accountable for a lot.
Yeah.
She was actually prescribed 772 barbiturates
It's crazy.
between June the 7th and August the 1st.
And let's face
August
it.
the 3rd, sorry.
And let's face it, history hasn't really changed, has it?
No.
Because obviously we look at Prince, we look at MJ.
Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah, it obviously is a constant thing, isn't it? Kind of thing of a part of the problem, isn't it? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and the problem with celebrities is everyone wants to please them. So when you've got a celebrity that's got sleep problems, depression, anxiety, you want to make them happy. And
Well, yeah, and I think the other thing is obviously the gravy train, isn't it? Like of the money side of it. Like
Yeah.
you want to stay in with.
yeah,
You want to
and
stay a part of the train.
one of the doctors, Ralph Greenson, was so close to Marilyn. I think he was an influence on pretty much everything she did.
Yeah.
She bought a house that was almost exactly the same as his.
Yeah.
He helped her choose it, and all manner of things which are beyond, the line of a doctor-patient relationship. So, yes, she was prescribed a lot of drugs, and yeah, I believe that she just couldn't manage them well. And, when you're starting to take them and you probably think, oh, okay, I can take a couple more, then you start losing track. So she did become addicted to her medication,
Yeah.
which is a sad truth, and even continues today, but it's a lot more monitored and a lot more doctors are held accountable. So
Yeah.
that's
the
something at
difference,
least.
isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so you remember the film My Week with Marilyn?
I certainly do very well.
So did Marilyn have a week-long affair whilst filming The Prince and the Showgirl?
Now, I kind of know this one because there was nothing actually. There's not really much evidence, is there?
No.
Apart from a book again that
Yes,
someone wrote.
well
and there's-
done, good memory.
There's not really, but there's not really any evidence.
There's
is
no
there?
hard evidence, no. The issues that come up with Colin Clark's story,
Yeah.
he actually wrote a book called The Prince, the Showgirl and Me.
Yeah.
Within the book, there's a 9-day gap.
Right.
In 2000, he released the book My Week with Marilyn, which many of you will know through the film, starring Michelle Williams and, what's his name? Eddie Redmayne, that's the one. It's a lovely film, really.
That's the saddest thing.
I don't...
As it doesn't show Marilyn negatively as such.
No, it's a fantasy film. I mean, it shows her a bit like...
Fan fiction.
Yeah, pretty much. The original fan fiction. Well, maybe not original, but...
No.
So, the problems with My Week with Marilyn, first of all, everyone in Marilyn's very tight inner circle can't even remember Colin.
No.
That's a big giveaway. Marilyn had very few people that knew everything that was going on in her life, and when it was brought up to them or anyone who knew about them, it came as a shock to them. They were just like, no, didn't happen.
No.
Also, one of the things is she'd only just got married to Arthur Miller, and despite what they show in the film and what is described, I believe, in the book, with Marilyn discovering Arthur's diary saying that she was a disappointment, yes, that did happen,
Yeah.
but she didn't hate Arthur for it. He did feel guilty, and they did work really hard for their marriage, and they did love each other. So despite that, I don't think Marilyn would suddenly fall in love with some gopher.
Yeah.
And yes, he brings up the fact that she had a miscarriage, which they show in the film as well. It's not known whether Marilyn was actually pregnant during the time of the filming. The dates in which Colin puts in the book don't line up with whether Arthur was there and her work schedule. Also, with she lost 2 other babies. She was in hospital and for a long time. And there's no records of her being in hospital in England. So I'm sure it would have made some sort of news if that was true. So again, sources.
Yeah, facts again.
Facts. Okay, do you believe Marilyn was rich?
Do I believe
At the peak of
Marilyn?
her career, for example, or the end of her career, do you think that Marilyn, diamonds are a girl's best friend?
Well, this is kind of the thing. I don't think she ever really got the money she deserved, did she?
No, that's right. Yeah, Marilyn was pretty much the most bankable star for her studio. And she when she did Gentlemen Prefer Blonde, she had a few good films under her belt at that point. She had Niagara, Don't Bother to Knock, and I believe she had just done How to Marry a Millionaire. Correct me if I'm wrong. But she didn't even have a dressing room.
No.
So that's how little respect that she had. But she insisted on it and she got one in the end, luckily. But no, Marilyn was never rich. She had lived a very modest lifestyle. And even her last home was considerably smaller than what you'd imagine.
Yeah, it's very understated, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
very.
Compared to a lot of... especially a lot
You
of
couldn't
the
even
other...
dream of buying it now, how
No.
expensive it was. But
No.
yes. So I think we should take a break because the next two topics are going to be big ones.
Okay, that's great. Let's take a break. Be sure to check out truthabout.co.uk and also our social media at TruthsPod on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, so welcome back. We are talking about the truth about Marilyn Monroe.
We certainly are.
If you listen to the first section of the podcast, I said that we were going to be going on to some big topics now.
Ooh.
What do you think those topics are?
JFK.
Well done. Everyone thinks about John F. Kennedy.
That is like when you talk to people that obviously don't really know anything kind of thing, that's always the thing they say.
They don't know anything.
The mafia, JFK.
Yes, that is correct.
If you're going to write a book, you want to say you secretly got married to Marilyn and...
She was murdered by JFK.
Yeah, exactly.
So these two topics are combined. So it is believed that she had an affair with both Robert Kennedy, aka Bobby Kennedy,
Yeah.
and JFK, John F. Kennedy.
The President of the United States of America.
Yes, and the Attorney General.
Amazing.
I just did it again. Sorry.
Don't break though. Just carry on.
So a biographer called Donald Spoto, I'm not very good at pronouncing last names, but he stated in his book, no serious biographer can maintain the existence of an affair between Marilyn and the Kennedys. All we can say for sure is that the actress and the president met 4 times between October 1961 and August 1962. And it was during one of those meetings that they called to a friendly relation of Marilyn from the bedroom. I'm sure I read that right. Shortly after, Marilyn confided this sexual relation to her close relatives, insisting about the fact that their affair had ended there.
Wow.
So pretty much if you read any book, if they say that they had an affair, yes, they did. If you want to believe the fact that Marilyn had a one-night stand with JFK.
But this is the thing. People only want to hear what they want to hear.
I know. The reality is that the truth can be conceived as being quite boring and dull in comparison to the lies that you can come up with, because you can blow this out of proportion all you like.
I think we had this conversation with Jackie before, and she said there's the various different types. I mean, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, but there's the various different types of Marilyn fans, and obviously the people that are really into the conspiracy side of it. There's people that are really into the death, of the mystery, and obviously there's the people that are really into the facts and the truth and the history of Marilyn. There's obviously people that love the films and the actress, and so there is so many dimensions to this.
Yeah, and
lady.
A lot of people, I think, get drawn to Marilyn initially from the conspiracy. I mean, I remember my first image of Marilyn is singing "Happy Birthday."
Yeah.
I think a lot of that's the rumour springs from there.
Yeah.
Because she sang it to him wearing almost a nude dress. She just sparkled in the spotlight, and people think she was the only act. She was there specially requested, but she wasn't. She was like fifth from last act of the performance for the, I believe it was a fundraiser.
Yeah, exactly.
For his birthday, and
It's
for
iconic
the Democratic
though,
Party.
isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it is the image that people have of her, this sex symbol singing for the president of the United States. Well, he must have slept with her, but you know, they had a party after. Marilyn had actually brought along her ex-father-in-law, Isidore Miller. Oh, couldn't get that out then, and they were in company all evening. Marilyn got taken home. She went home alone, and that's that. There was nothing to that story. Regarding Bobby, again, there are a few dates that people have come up with that said she met secretly on this day, she met secretly on that day with him. She had a dinner with him with other people where she asked about civil rights and what he was going to do for them, which is a lovely story as well. She actually wrote a letter to her ex-stepson, I believe, Arthur Miller's son, and, you know, said it was a lovely meeting and, you know, it was really good. She was even invited to the house of Robert Kennedy and his wife, but Marilyn said, no, I've got something else to do. I can't remember exactly what it was. I believe it was a protest for something. I'm not that good. I haven't got a photographic memory. But essentially, again, with people that are so famous like the Kennedys and Marilyn, their dates are recorded. Every single move they make.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like President Obama or whatever. It's like, you know, he everyone knows exactly what he's doing every single day.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
There's nothing, you know, there's a security detail that has to follow a president.
Exactly, and I'm sure if JFK wasn't the first person to ever have an affair,
No.
and he had plenty of affairs, which weren't Marilyn Monroe.
As a subject matter, you know, he's got the reputation of being pretty promiscuous. If
yes,
you like.
Which was horrible for Jackie, I'm sure.
Oh, totally, yeah.
But yeah, the reality is Marilyn was one of many. And it was probably for one evening only.
You need to show me the facts on that before we can.
The facts on what? The other affairs?
No, yeah. That JFK had multiple affairs. We need to see facts on that.
Well, I'll go into it another day, maybe. The truth about JFK and his affairs.
Coming soon.
So, yes, connected to JFK, there is the question of Marilyn's murder.
Uh-huh.
Now, do you believe she was murdered?
If I'm being totally honest, it's something that I would like to believe because I do actually personally like the idea of conspiracy. I like the idea that it wasn't just an accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to believe that, you know, there's a huge, big conspiracy. But I think deep down, I know the truth is, I knew it was an accident. You know what I mean? It wasn't suicide or anything like that. It merely was an accident that, you know, it wasn't meant to happen kind of thing. That's what I believe anyway.
And as I said earlier, she was prescribed over 700 drugs over the course of a few months.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's, yeah.
Yeah, and...
It's the exact same with Prince. It's the exact same with Michael Jackson. It's, you know, you can go into rock and roll as well.
Yeah.
You know, John Bonham, Keith Moon, you know, did they all mean to kill themselves? Well, or Hendrix, obviously, and the whole of the 27 Club. But in reality, it's like, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And
like
the issue that we've got with Marilyn's death is, and the mystery of it really comes from a couple of things. Her housekeeper that was living there called her doctor, Ralph Greenson, first, I believe, and they had hours before they actually called the police. So there was questions about that. It was questions about how the window was broken, that her body had been moved, that things were being cleaned. There's a ton of, evidence to say that the police weren't credible at the time. They actually got found out later to not be very reliable and, did false evidence on other cases and things like that. So there's so much wrong with the case of Marilyn's death, which makes people just believe, well, they're covering something up. And I personally believe the only thing that they could have covered up was the fact that her doctor was being negligent and prescribed her way too many drugs and didn't want to be held accountable for it. And it must have hurt him a lot because he was very close to Marilyn and he saw her like a daughter. But, you try and keep someone happy for so long, and she was such a focal point on many people's lives. And I think people just wanted to believe anything other than perhaps she committed suicide, which was also a possibility, as she had tried to do it before after she lost her baby. But yeah.
But my favourite things from popular culture, if you like, is the amount of song lyrics and things like that of, and just in the news and things like that of, like, who killed Marilyn Monroe and the kind of idea that we killed her, what I mean, like fame and all that kind of stuff. And that's a strong thing, like, look what they've done to that girl. You what I mean, that kind of vibe.
And
I really
there was a lot. I believe there was a lot of that which didn't help her anxiety and depression. Her whole life she had issues from day one, which I recommend you go read one of the books that we link, because
totally.
This podcast will go on for hours and hours.
This potentially will start someone who listens to this
I
podcast
hope so.
down the tunnel vision.
But Marilyn did have
hole.
a rubbish start.
Totally.
Putting it nicely, she had a rubbish start, and a lot of events that happened in her life weren't so pleasant, and she had sleep problems, and yes, she had anxiety and depression. People say that she had bipolar. She was never officially diagnosed with that, but she had a lot of sad times, and she took medication to try and help that. But at the time of her death, things were looking up. Although she had previously lost her job, she was starting to do more interviews. She was opening up more about the studio system, how she'd been treated, and her hopes for the future. She said to her friend George Barris, I'm 36 years old, I'm just getting started. And that for me is kind of heartbreaking, because she didn't. It was only a few months later that she passed away. And
what about the remarriage thing to DiMaggio? Do you believe in that? Or
well, the rumours are that she was going to remarry Joe DiMaggio, but the likelihood is probably not. Don Spotto mentions it in his book that the appointments for dress fittings were actually more likely for an award ceremony and things like that. It's just their friendship had just started rekindling the previous year, and it's not likely that she was going to go back to her old ways. She was trying to cut off bad influences.
But it's still that beautiful thing that, he always left the roses at the grave. You know?
And although that I find that very romantic, at the same time it's a little bit creepy to some people, because they did get divorced. They do believe he was physically abusive. My opinions on that, I don't know. I wasn't there.
And I think that is the biggest thing. The beauty or the rubbish thing about this whole story is we never are actually ever really going to know.
No, and we will never know.
Same with JFK.
Yeah.
It's, who murdered JFK and all that kind of stuff. It still just comes down to we will never know, but that doesn't stop
I believe there's only one person that could possibly ever known about what happened to Marilyn the night she died, and she kept changing her story. Her housekeeper, she kept changing her story. It's believed that Marilyn was actually sacking her and she was just having that one night there. There's all of this mystery and behind it of like, why this, why that, and yeah, we're never going to know the truth.
No.
And it's sad, but
also it's probably a good opportunity to actually then focus on the lady. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The positives of, because that's the worst part about all of this. You know,
that
like
is.
you know, she was a business owner. You know, and that was fascinating for that time. And obviously, she was a great actress. You know, especially in the ones that aren't more overly commercialized. You know, Don't Bother to Knock and Niagara and things like that. She was, you know, really great in those roles, kind of thing. But yeah, that's what we need to focus on more, don't you
definitely.
think? As opposed to death and
obviously this is probably what draws people in more.
Yeah.
And the truth about Marilyn is that yes, she was very intelligent. She was witty. She was funny. She again had a close knit of friends. She was quite a private person, but she was very good at publicity. She knew when to turn the Marilyn Monroe magic on, but she wasn't afraid to be her modest self. She would often go out just wearing a headscarf, sunglasses, a nice plain blouse and some slacks, and she wasn't afraid to be herself as time went on. She spent a lot of time with poets, you know, authors, artists. She loved art, and she even painted herself. She didn't paint herself, but she painted pictures herself. She enjoyed gardening. She loved animals. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah, exactly.
But she really worked hard for her craft, and she was let down by the studio system. They gave her roles that she didn't really want to do.
The dumb blonde.
Yeah, and she even gave an interview, a person-to-person interview in 1955, where she says she likes doing comedy roles, but she would like to do something else too.
Yeah.
And she, you know, in Bus Stop, she puts on an accent, and she's cute, she's funny, you know, but at the same time you think, God, this is awful writing.
Yeah.
And you do wonder, although I know that was one of the Marilyn Monroe productions, but some of the things you can admit, some of her choices in life were bad, but you know, she was an amazing, talented woman, and she was very human too. So that's the end of it, really. The truth about Marilyn Monroe is that she was human. She made mistakes, and you know, you should definitely read more about her from reliable sources.
Yeah.
I'm going to also link a blog post that I did, which is some things that you may not have known about Marilyn Monroe. And in that post, I talk about credible sources, because this is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Check your sources.
With everything, I would say, on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Check your sources. I mean, Paul even found earlier that he was looking at a quote, and he was like, there's no source. I'm not going to use that.
And then I looked it up and found the source was actually false, about something unrelated. But yeah, it does still keep bringing it home.
Yeah, and it does make you realise, actually, am I sharing the right things on Facebook?
Totally.
So, yes, I think we should close up now, because I can talk all day about this specialist subject of mine.
Certainly can.
So, yes, I just want to thank a few people because they have really grown my insight.
Oh, yes.
So,
and obviously people that and things and people that people should check out.
Yes, definitely. So please do check out Michelle Morgan's book. I will link that. Donald Spotto's book as well is really, really good. Thanks to researchers such as April Whitaker and the collectors Scott Fortner and Greg Schreiner. We've put all the links and other blog posts to reliable information that will be useful to you if you do decide to further look into the life of Marilyn Monroe. Thank you all for listening. Why don't you join the conversation on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at TruthsPod, and be sure to visit www.truthsabout.co.uk.
And be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with our latest podcasts, drop us a review, and please share with your friends, and let's keep the discussion flowing.
Confusion filled sea of doubt. It's time to hear the truth about confusion filled sea of doubt. It's time to hear the truth about